Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Was Tuesday with your host, James Chen. I'm here just to answer some viewer questions today. As you can see, I have set up here viewer Q&A. Expected to have a lot more time for that, but I talked about this topic, legacy skills, for a very long time. It was a really interesting discussion. It went down many paths, so if you haven't read this, I know that thing is almost 2 hours long, but it's a great discussion to put on in the background and stuff and such, and just kind of have a listen during a commute, while working out or something like that. Really a lot of cool discussion going on in that podcast. So please check that out if you get a chance. Should be up on YouTube already. So I'm just going to do a short little Q&A session here, maybe just like 15-30 minutes of discussion over here. So I'm going to answer questions in the chat. Just make sure you do an @JChenzor in the chat. Actually, yes, it would be @JChenzor. I know I'm streaming on Ultra Chen TV, but I am viewing the chat as logged in as JChenzor. So if you do an @JChenzor on there, I'll answer one question that's already in here. Peter061 asked, best sweets and desserts at Arby's? I really, really like their apple turnovers because that icy, I have a sweet tooth. The older I get, the more of a sweet tooth I have. And I really like that icy frosting thing that they drizzle on top of their apple pies. And I just like apple pies in general. I get apple pies at McDonald's. Dude, Panda Express now has these apple pie egg rolls, which are like way better than they have any right to be. So I'm just a fan of apple pies in general. Do I think Lucia will be back for Street Fighter 6? Asks Squall ADV. No, Kimberly's already there. With Kimberly there, there's zero reason to put Lucia back. I also want to answer Shaq the Great's question. He says, do you think that Capcom will ever get rid of the World Warriors in Street Fighter? They tried, and it didn't go very well. A lot of people are not aware of the fact that Street Fighter 3 was supposed to be completely a brand new cast. At the last second, they added Ryu and Ken because they kind of felt like they needed to tie it to the old franchise. And contrary to what exists now, where everybody loves the Street Fighter 3 characters, nobody liked the Street Fighter 3 characters when Street Fighter 3 first came out. And in fact, a lot of people don't know this, but Street Fighter 3 was very not popular. Street Fighter 3, Second Impact, and Third Strike, by all intents and purposes, were massive bombs. They were not played at all. They were not popular at all. And at that point in time, nobody was going to arcades. And so they were not successful. And then Street Fighter 4 came out, and they added all the original cast back in, and there was a line around the block for the launch event, and everybody's like, oh my god, I loved Blanca, he was my favorite character. Oh my god, I loved Guile, he was my favorite character. I think it would be a mistake, as you see what happens in every fighting game that they try to add new characters. Here's this person's kid who kind of fights like them because we don't have the parent anymore, and then they always bring back the original character eventually. Somehow, no, actually they didn't die. It's a reboot. No, dude, just no. Let's just do that. Lucia plays nothing like Kim. She doesn't play nothing like Kim. There's a lot of similarities in mentality and concepts, for sure. But, I mean, they could add Lucia at some point. I just think the chances are very, very low. Makin X Soul says, would love Guile's daughter to be like him and Charlie. So I had a similar one that I really wanted Makin X Soul. To this day, I wanted Jessica to be a playable character in the fighting game. Who's Jessica, you ask? Hager's daughter and Cody's ex-girlfriend. I wanted Jessica to be in the game and have her do spinning pile drivers and have Hagar's moveset. Because after getting kidnapped in Final Fight, she was like, I'm done with this nonsense. And actually trains up and goes and works out at the gym. And then now she's just like absolute, like she's still like super hot blonde model, but she's just like ripped and she just runs at you and spinning pile drives you and like body slams you and do all this. I think that would be super Awesome, dude. That's the story of River City Girls, basically. Yeah, see, there you go. There, like Marion and not in Rival Schools 2. You're talking about in Double Dragon, right? Double Dragon, basically, is what I want. But the thing is, they're all like I just want her to actually be a Zangief grappler. Like I want her to stand like this and walk really slowly and like actually like command grab people all over the place. Like just be hilarious. Like just give her like those crazy moves. I think that would be oh, they put Marion in River City Girls too. Gotcha. Right, that's right. I remember they did. That's right. Jay Chenzor does the Forrest asks, does the lighting, like how dark or colorful a game is, affect how much you like a game? I mean, given the fact that I have trouble with Mortal Kombat a lot of times because of how dark it is, and that, growing up, I was a much bigger fan of Virtua Fighter over Tekken because Virtua Fighter took place in the day and had blue sky and green backgrounds and stuff like that. And Tekken always seemed to be taking place in volcanoes and at night and in all these dark orange places and stuff. I mean, probably does make a difference to me. I like colorful things. I've always been a fan of colorful things. And Street Fighter 6 being a little more colorful definitely lends to that as well. So I actually really, really like that. So Shay asks, if you have a Liberty design, an all-new character for Street Fighter 6, how would that character play? It's an interesting question. If I had an ability to add a character to Street Fighter 6, one of the things that I've always wanted to do, I've always wanted to create characters that mess with the mechanics in the game. Like, if you guys don't know how Skullgirls' infinite prevention system works, is basically every time if you start a sequence with the same button and like chain into the same thing, it counts as an infinite, and so now the opponent can burst. Basically, if you accidentally repeat a sequence. So as long as you keep using starting with a different button and chaining into other things, etc. As long as you can kind of vary it up, you don't trigger the infinite prevention system, which allows the character to burst. I always wanted to create a Skullgirls character that only had 3 attack buttons with the punches, so you didn't have any choice but to trigger the infinite prevention system all the time. But all of the kick buttons were counters that you could chain into, and they countered in different ways, and I'm not sure how to rectify that. But basically, her whole entire game plan was she had to keep triggering the infinite prevention system, but then she had the ability to chain into counters so that if she predicted your break, so she would be like a combo breaker character. She would be a counter combo breaker character. So basically, every time she thinks you're going to burst, she could chain into a counter and then catch your burst and then keep the combo going, kind of thing like that. I love wanting to create characters that mess with mechanics that way. In Street Fighter 5, for example, I wanted a character that just was so good at building white damage, but had like unblockable overheads that did like 10 damage. Like not unblockable, but just like super fast overheads that did no damage. But she or he was just really good at like draining white health off of you. So their goal was just to kind of force you to block things and then hit you with a quick 10 damage overhead to drain all of the white health off of your character. So like that's kind of the thing that I would like to do. So in Street Fighter 6, I don't know. Like I would have to come up with a character who like either gets strong when they get burned out or something like that. That would be kind of fascinating. I would probably do something weird like that, or I would just put Saddam in the game and do a redesigned Saddam, honestly, because I really want Saddam back in a fighting game, because he needs to be back in a fighting game like now. Peter0611 asks, waffles or pancakes? He says, I'm hungry and can only think of food-related questions. So the thing that I like about waffles, so that means you hate pancakes? That's an entirely different question, dog. Still the greatest tweet in the world, dude. Still the greatest tweet in the world, honestly. Oh, God. Let me see. Let's see if I could find that picture here. It is still the greatest tweet of all time. This is the one right here. Twitter, the only place where well-articulated sentences still get misinterpreted. You can say, I like pancakes, and somebody will say, so you hate waffles? No, bitch, that's a whole new sentence. What the fuck is you talking about? Like, this is... Welcome to Twitter, dude. Seriously. I have responded to so many people that way where I'm like, I think this. And they're like, so you hate this? And I'm like, dog, I don't hate pancakes, dude. I don't hate waffles. All right, look, I won't even like link the tweet. I'll just tell them that, dude. I'll just tell them that. Do I like waffles or pancakes better? I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but legit, they both have their strengths, and there are times where I will eat pancakes and it is like the greatest thing in the world, and there are times that I eat waffles and they are the greatest things in the world. Like, honestly, like when they are made right, both waffles and pancakes are just absolutely ridiculous, dude. If you live in Southern California, God, what is that place called? The Grove. Yeah, that's what it is. If you have a chance, if you live in Southern California, I will recommend to you at the Grove in Southern California is a restaurant called Dupar's, which is DU-PAR. Some of the best pancakes I've ever had. Like, seriously, try to go there if you can. Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles is amazing. There was a place called Ruts that used to make banana pancakes that they don't anymore, which absolutely kills my heart, that made the best banana pancakes in the world. So the idea, Forrest, honestly, is that you got to make sure you don't overdo the syrup. A lot of times, I mean, Tom and Tony and Seth Killian and like Chris Lee and a bunch of us were at a breakfast place one time, and they talked about the pancake theory, is that the first bite of a pancake is the greatest thing in the world, and by the time you get like 3/4 through the pancake, you're like, never want to eat pancakes again. A lot of that is when you overdo the syrup. So just be careful with the amount of syrup when you eat pancakes. The way that I always do it, the way that I do it to make pancakes last the best, because I love syrup. Like my brother barely puts any syrup on his pancakes. He's a maniac, okay? The way that I do it is I always pour a tiny bit of pancakes on the top of the stack on one spot, cut it out like, you know, like a Pac-Man thing like you do. And then from that point on, I only pour the syrup in the wedge that I've created, and I cut the pancakes and I dip the pancakes into the syrup and eat it that way. So the syrup never gets absorbed into the pancake, but you end up eating the syrup first and you get the taste, and it's really, really good. So I hate French toast. Yes, no, French toast is amazing too, honestly. Yeah, but dipping pancakes into the syrup is the key right there. That's the key right there. Mr. QJ says, I eat both waffles and pancakes, but I have a dark secret about them. Whenever I tell people, they look at me in horror. I don't know what that means, and I'm scared. I'm scared. It's up to you if you want to reveal your dark secret here on stream with everybody reading. You poke holes into them to get them all soggy? Yeah, for sure. There are people out there, Actio, who love the soggy pancakes. Absolutely. Forrest asked straight up, which game do you like better, UMvC3 or MvC2? I will say UMvC3 because the more of the cast is relevant. And that's mostly the main reason why. I think more of the cast is relevant. And the game, I feel like, is a little more open than MvC2. MvC2 still has a little bit of restrictions, and some characters are really just not effective anymore as a result. KC Fusion Gamer asks, I had a question earlier. Do you think Xbox might do a resurgence with their fighting game scene, like a new Killer Instinct or a new return of, say, DOA? Well, I don't know if you already heard, KC Fusion Gamer, but they've already hired Iron Galaxy to make a new update to Killer Instinct. So they're actually updating Killer Instinct already. So they're actually coming out with a brand new balance patch for this game, and they're like upscaling it so it can be played 4K officially, etc., etc. So, oh, look at this. Mr. QJ says, I eat them both without syrup. Yeah, they get kind of dry. They do get kind of dry. So you probably put a lot of butter or powdered sugar or something on them. So I don't have a pancreas, so I'm a little biased, but give me a light smear of butter on a piping hot pancake and then a little squirt of syrup. Yep, I agree, Ethereal Llama. There's definitely a good way to work on it as well. So I haven't eaten pancakes or waffles with syrups in over 25 years. If they're buttered right, they're fine. Yep, that works. That works for sure. You can only watch the same two teams butt heads so many times before the game goes stale, especially when there's only one character difference between those teams. Yeah, I mean, MvC2 has a lot of great stuff going on in there, and it's always fun to see the underdog teams try to win and stuff, and MvC2 still just has this level of dirtiness to it that, like, oh god, like even as dirty as it can get. Well, I don't know, modern days audiences probably wouldn't think watching Iron Man Infinite everybody to death would be hype anymore either. Like they were balking at MvC3 at Evo this past year. They were surprised, like, this is the game everyone's talking about? Does the other person ever get a chance to play? But, you know, back in the day when it was out, we were kind of used to that idea, and, you know, there was a certain charm to that kind of game. So Louis B asks, is there any other Tetris-like game that you like? I really like Dosun Ganseki Battle, kind of a Street Fighter Tetris on the SNES. There's a lot of other puzzle games that I play, but there's nothing that I have to the extent of Tetris, because, and I was talking to somebody else about this at CTWC, the genius of Tetris is that they never had to create a way for you to die outside of the game speeding up, and then it just tops out. Like, it makes sense. Like every other fighting game, every other puzzle game that gets created, there's always like this kind of weird, like, false mechanic to try to take you out. You know what I mean? Or they're too, like Puyo Puyo, for example, you don't have to do that. Columns, you don't have to do that. But it's just like the restrictions and, you know, all these things. Like, I don't know. There's something about Tetris that's just so much more zen to me that feels like that doesn't exist in a lot of other video games. F-Zero GX is another one that I feel that way. You know, I've told people many times when I play F-Zero GX, I'll just race on a track in trial mode with no computers, and I just drive the track. But the overall experience of F-Zero GX, the visuals, the absolute just onslaught of senses, but also the speed and the precision control you get out of it, and just the absolute music just being so, and the graphic, like everything about F-Zero GX blends into an experience that doesn't exist anywhere else. And I don't get that out of many other video games. Tetris is one of them. I mean, a lot of times when I play Tetris 99 on stream, people are like, how are you talking while you play this game? Like, how are you? And it's just because the game is so zen. It becomes such an instinct. And I love the fact that TGM3 calls themselves Terror Instinct, because that describes it so perfectly, because you get this kind of like, holy crap, it's so fast. But when you're good at Tetris, the ability for you to play the game and maintain the field and burn in this really intelligent way is oftentimes instinctual and reactive. And it's something that doesn't exist in a lot of other puzzle games. A lot of other puzzle games are too much like, oh, here's this thing. Oh, look at this. You got this random thing, and it's really hard to handle with it. But like the way Tetris is designed, especially in modern rules, that you can survive at really fast speeds, and they tried to make the RNG a little more fair, etc., etc. There's just this crazy zen that you get out of Tetris that you don't get out of a lot of other puzzle games, honestly. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Who is the most broken fighting game character ever made in a game? If you mean playable characters, do you mean playable characters? Because I know in like the SNES Yeah, Ivan Ooze. There you go. Mike Lee's story. Yeah, I was just about to say Ivan Ooze from that Power Rangers game was stupid. Akuma and ST is pretty broken as well, because literally no character was designed in a way to stop that diagonal air fireball. Like, some characters literally just can't do anything to it. If he was playable, Magneto would have been broken in Children of the Atom. Nakaruru in CVS1 is really close, honestly. Even though, like, I don't think she dominated all tournaments. Like, she's clearly just really stupid. Yeah, it's skill limited, not gameplay limited. Tetris, right? Yeah. Dude, I still have F-Zero GX. Like, as long as I live. Like, I just said, like, Nintendo, you don't have to make a new F-Zero. Just port F-Zero GX to a new platform so that we can get it in 4K on a 16:9 screen, and then split screen 4 players doesn't compromise any graphics. And outside of that, just make it the exact same game, just upscale it maybe a little bit. Like, that's all. And then let us play 30 players online. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. So, yeah. Yeah, Ivan Ooze as a specialist is 100% invincible, and shoots homing projectiles. That's why Magneto Children of the Atom was so broken, because he just could go, shield, and then you couldn't hit him. And then Hyper Grab was, like, literally impossible to escape and was unblockable, and then he just murdered you. Like, Children of the Atom Magneto was so unfairly unbroken. I mean, it was so unfairly broken, but it's why I loved him. He's just so fun. And yeah, Tanya and MKX, Leroy and Tekken 7 aren't even close to being the most broken characters in fighting games. Like, you guys have no idea how broken some of these old characters were, dude. You have no... Vega in Super Turbo is infinitely more broken than some of those characters, dude. Oh, man. Yeah, most of the SNK bosses were broken because they read inputs a lot of the time. So it's like, I touch a button. Oh, okay, now I hit you. Yeah, so that was one of the problems. But, yeah, there's a lot of that. So, I mean, the fact that people are saying, God, this matchup is terrible. It's totally 6-4. And I'm like, what? What? 6-4 was like completely the, like, oh, this match is, it's fine. It's totally winnable. It's like 6-4, dude. It's totally winnable. It's just maybe a slight advantage to one character. Like, that's what 6-4 was back in the day. So, Jay Treasure is probably the oldest person here. Facts about the old characters being broken. Their purpose was to drain quarters. Yep. God. Like, I mean, like, I still remember in X-Men versus Street Fighter, the CPU could cancel normals into neutral. They could just Roman cancel. So Sabretooth, fuck Sabretooth, by the way, would just walk up and sweep into neutral. Like, it was hilarious, dude. The MK computer, if you swept him, they would just throw you. It didn't matter how far away you were. CPU Zangief just had an invincible sweep. So if you walked up and hit crouching roundhouse, the computer Zangief would just sweep you first. Like, like frame-wise, nowadays, like, it just makes no sense, because Ryu and Ken's sweep were super fast. You just walk up and sweep, and Zangief would low sweep, and you just see your kick go right through him, and he'd just kick you. Like, it's kind of dumb, dude. Oh, I've heard stories about that War God's last boss, dude. I have heard stories about that character. I've never experienced it, but I mean, Alpha 2 was the worst, Forrest, when it came to computer reading your inputs. If you walked up and pressed any button, they just level 1 supered you in the face. You would just walk up and go, jab! And you're about to jab. It's like, first frame, and then level 1 super, and they just shoot you in the face, dude. It was really stupid. Oh, man. There was so much. Yeah, like the computer, like if you ever did anything remotely close to being a tick throw, the computers would just throw you, and there's like nothing you could do. Like literally nothing you can do. SB Patrick asks, how long do you think it'll be before we finally see classic and modern characters listed individually on tier lists and matchup charts? I hope not that much longer, because honestly, it needs to happen. I think people are making a mistake that we aren't doing it and that we aren't experimenting with modern enough. I really, really feel like that we need to have that discussion more. We need to have a better understanding of the modern characters because they are like isms. They are like grooves. They change the character a little bit. The thing about it is, again, they change the characters a lot less than people think, especially with tricks like I've been using to get walk-up SPDs, even with classic controllers, one frame SPDs essentially. Like there's a lot of good ways to get around things. So Lurker Spine says, do you think Capcom will ever make a modern-only fighter? I don't know if they have any reason to, but they might. I mean, like, honestly, if they tried to make, for example, Power Stone, like a new Power Stone, but actually make it balanced and competitive kind of thing, I think absolutely. Like, you don't have to make motions. Power Stone had special, like, one-button special moves before in the past. Like, it just depends on the game. Depends on what they want to create out there. I think it's totally possible. Rival Schools would be a good game for modern, maybe. But again, Exilian, I have the best Rival Schools idea, which I still have not yet revealed to anybody yet because I'm scared someone's going to steal my idea. So I'm still hoping that Capcom lets me make a new Rival Schools game at some point in time. Would be nice to have a real Capcom All-Star game. I mean, they tried to make one, and they trashed it because it just wasn't very good, apparently. It was their first attempt at making a 3D fighting game. One of their first attempts, so you can actually look up footage of Capcom All Stars where what's her face came from, Ingrid came from, yeah. The trailers are still out there. Yep, Capcom Fighting Jam we don't talk about. For those who miss Power Stone, go play Combat Core, huh? Interesting. Okay. Kevin Motti says, I wouldn't be surprised if Capcom's next Marvel style versus game went full simplified inputs. It could. Although now it might feel like it's a little bit too much stepping on the toes of Project L. Also, Marvel games are kind of known for being execution heavy. So if they made a Capcom versus Capcom and it was more modern inputs, I actually think that could be bad. Like, that might make a lot of old school versus players kind of mad. So, I don't know. We'll see. Peter0611 asks a very interesting question. Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time? I think Majora's Mask is one of the most artistic and creative games ever made. I love the atmosphere of it. I love how creepy it is. I love that they take video games and turn it into a mechanic. Like, going back in time is essentially dying and starting over again. And I love that they did that. Ocarina of Time is a good game. It's funny, I was just having a conversation with somebody that said that Ocarina of Time really hasn't kind of held up as well as we think it did. It was just, at the time, it was so fresh. But even without that conversation, I still think Ocarina of Time is an amazing game. But Majora's Mask is honestly, like for me, it's just like one of the deepest and like compelling, like really makes you think. And like I said, I love the creepy vibe of it. I love how, like nowadays we understand why half the people in the town are like, the moon's not gonna crash into us. It's fine. Like, there's just the vibe of it, and just like the way that you had to do it, and then having that one arc that you had to manipulate all the way through from beginning to end to get that storyline completed with the Pikachu mask, and I forgot what the characters' names were, but like I love, like, Majora's Mask to me is still one of the best examples of art. So Tetris to me is the most artistic video game ever created, because I do not believe, like a lot of other people, that art in video games has to make you cry or has to tell a compelling story. No, for me, art is about being the best at the medium that you can be. To be able to do something that's unique to your medium that cannot be done elsewhere, right? Silent Hill 2 is another great example of art in video games. games, because the way that you determine your ending is so creative, and the way that you have to piece together what the storyline is so creative, and you can only do it through a video game. Like, you cannot have made a game like Silent Hill 2 and have its endings decided in any other medium except a video game. And that's like amazing to me, right? So Tetris doesn't exist anywhere else except for that. And Majora's Mask, like I said, by taking the concept of video games and turning it on its head and acknowledging the fact that you're playing the video game story-wise, by making you essentially die and start over every time and come through. So again, you know, for those of you, spoilers, if you don't want spoilers about a certain game that I'm going to talk about here a little bit, it's not even a huge spoiler because you figure out right away, but Outer Wilds is the spiritual successor to Majora's Mask, and both of those games are just absolutely just beautiful for that reason. And again, like I said, it's not even that big of a spoiler in Outer Wilds because you figure it out in like 21 minutes. You figure out what's going on. So, can Capcom, do you think Capcom will ever do a 3D fighting game? They have. Star Gladiators is a 3D fighting game. So they've made 3D fighting games. Although Arika was the one that I think made that. I think that was just licensed out. So if they actually themselves made a 3D fighting game with 3D movement? Oh, yeah. I've actually read a lot of those crazy Majora's Mask theories, Peter0611. I usually have done it. Some fan theories are fun. The Squall is Dead fan theory was really enjoyable. I like this, even though the Squall is Dead one has been confirmed not true and would actually be kind of stupid, but it's a fun one to read about. Yeah, no, Metal Gear Solid 1, but only had like 2 specific points that decided your ending. But Silent Hill 2, like the fact that it depends on, I mean, spoilers again. If you don't want to know how Silent Hill 2 directs your endings, wait till I put up my finger when I stop talking, but mute right now. The fact that Silent Hill 2 determines your ending by how close you keep yourself healed, by how far distance you put yourself away from fake Mary because she doesn't run as fast as you, to, you know, if you kept looking at the knife, which had no purpose in the game but to sit in your inventory, or if you looked at the letter from your dead wife over and over again to determine how much you love your wife, etc., etc. Like, that shit is ridiculous of how to determine an ending in a video game. Like, it's just genius. And it worked too, by the way, because I got one ending because of the way my brain works, and a friend got a different ending because of the way his brain worked. It was just freaking genius. And no other game has ever done that, and I freaking love it. All right, finger up, spoilers over. There we go. So, how do I feel about 2024 Silent Hill 2 remake? I'm scared, dude. I'm scared. God, I hope they do it well. I hope they do it well. Oh, yeah, it was Metal Gear Solid 2 that had the torture sequence, right? That's right, Metal Gear Solid 1 had different ways to determine. I forgot what it was now. I forgot how MGS1 did it. For some reason, I thought MGS1 was the torture sequence. Recommend Armored Core 6. Okay. Forrest says, what is your opinion of those arcade 1-up machines? Worth it? Good. The problem with it is that they're emulators. And so, if you're okay playing on emulators, and I have heard I have heard opinions from a lot of people that they are not good emulators. Oh, it was MGS1 with the torture. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. But I've heard that the emulators on the 1-up cabinets aren't necessarily good. I can't speak to this. This is what a, classic game preserver person that I know says. But I think for a lot of people, the arcade 1-up cabinets do just fine, and they will fulfill exactly what you need for it. So I don't know I don't know enough about them for me to give a full opinion on them, Forrest. That's just what I've heard. But again, you know, there's a lot of people I know who have them who enjoy them. So I know a lot of people out there who enjoy having them. So yeah, you would have to talk to hardcore MvC2 people to be able to determine whether or not that arcade 1-up machine is good. I am not the right person to ask about how the MvC2 on the arcade 1-up is. You might, I mean, Justin, I know, has a bunch of the arcade 1-up machines in his home, but I think he also works for them, so I don't know if he could give you a bad opinion on them if he was, I don't know if he's allowed to. So there's probably some other people to talk to about it. So there you go. And that is the last question that I see in the chat. Like I said, I'd probably do half an hour on questions. So I will go ahead and call it here because, like I said, I need to start some editing and then I need to get ready for ICFC in a little bit. So I think I will just call it for the stream here today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I always appreciate that. So many of you guys are here, regulars here in the chat all the time. Don't think I don't see you guys here every single week, and I appreciate it very much. I'm supposed to do ICFC tonight. I'm tired enough that I don't want to, but if I tell them, hey, I'm not going to do it tonight, it's too late. So pretty much at this time of day, I've probably, I have to commit to it. So I will be doing it. So I will see you guys on ICFC. If you guys want to watch the Asian action coming up later on today, I'll probably have to pop a Red Bull. But other than that, thank you guys. And thank you guys for continuing to support my content. For those of you here on YouTube as well, thank you guys for your subs and your likes. And please comment below, ask some questions. And maybe I'll try to remember to port some of those questions to future Q&As. Or I'll just answer them straight up in the chat as well. But again, always appreciate you guys supporting my content and everything, and always appreciate everybody, you know, coming in and having a fun conversation with me. So, you know, and I know you guys enjoy my content a lot because the day that this content graced your ears was the greatest day of your life. But for me,
it was Tuesday.